It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And today we are talking about listening to understand, also known as active listening. I prefer listening to understand because it's just not quite as structured, but still gets the same place. You may have done active listening courses. Having done a lot of active listening training, I'm going to give you my own method. One, because you can get other active listening training elsewhere. Even like Oprah.com or something like that breaks down all the traditional steps. But I also find that people, especially people who are neurodivergent, tend to get stuck on the steps. And so they're thinking about the steps instead of thinking about the goal, which is to listen to understand. I don't believe there's a one-size-fits-all solution to everything. I think some people struggle with a 5-stage process because they start skipping ahead to, I have to do 4, I have to do 5, and they miss, it's underpants gnomes thinking. Step 1, collect underpants. Step 3, profit. What's step 2? I find that happens a lot in traditional active listening structure. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to do the Leanna method, which may not work for you. Create the you method. That's the whole purpose of Wellness Wednesday, right? If you like Wellness Wednesday, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Patreon is the fuel that keeps Wellness Wednesday running because it's my favorite segment every week. It's the lowest viewed segment most weeks, but it really helps the people that it helps. And that Patreon support allows me to continue to do this stuff and keep a dialogue going. And I think that dialogue is extremely important because personally, I find when I don't get feedback, useful feedback, I'm like, well, what am I doing? I'm just stumbling around in the dark. I don't want to just listen to myself talk. I don't like listening to myself talk. I have to do it a lot because I edit my own content. I can't stand it. I'm much more interested in other people and, not just the facts of what they're saying, but their perspectives on things. And there's a lot that goes into listening beyond just the words. Sometimes I want to start doing audio only formats so that people can really, and I know a lot of people listen with this in the background, but body language is so important, and tone is so important, and pacing is so important. And it's beyond a pet peeve, it's actually an irritant for me, is the tendency for people to listen to content at 1.25 speed. You're not getting the actual communication if you are changing the content at all. Speeding up the pace of language changes how you interpret it, in part because scientific fact, we think faster than we speak. We speak at about 125 words a minute. I think that could be wrong, but we think much faster than that. And part of the reason some people struggle with listening is precisely because of that. They're formulating a response in their head to what the person has said. And that happens faster than the other person can get their thought out. Now, one tactic to avoid that is trying to predict where a person is going to go with the next thing they say. That actually makes it more relevant for your brain as well. But okay, they're saying this, they're going to go there. Oh, no, they didn't go there. Interesting. Okay. It keeps you engaged, but it also stops you from just, checking out halfway through the message. And sometimes it happens. I don't want anybody to feel like this is a pass-fail thing. This is, as long as you get better here, you're on the right track. Because why should you care? Why should you care if you're listening to reply or listening to react instead of listening to understand? Well, a lot of people who consume video games see themselves as socially awkward, right? Part of that social awkwardness is feeling like they don't know how to reply to things. Well, that means your focus is on replying. It's on speaking as opposed to becoming a really good listener. And, some studies have shown that people actually think people who listen better are more intelligent. They're better conversationalists. You can say next to nothing. And people think, oh, they're so smart. They're so good to talk to because they did all the talking. One of the reasons I get tired with, doing a bunch of streams is I feel like I'm talking way too much because I'm there as the guest and people want to show when I'm in performance mode. But that's not my inclination. I'm a data collection person. I like taking stuff in. I'm going, interesting. Let's unpack that. I wasn't always like that. Part of that comes with personal security, self-esteem, self-compassion, that kind of stuff. I think some of it may be an introvert-extrovert thing, but most of us are introverts here. So now, trauma and things like that can make listening to understand difficult. Here's the alternative there that I want you to consider. Listening to understand, once you get good at it, can actually minimize the things that trigger you because you're really stopping to make sure you've understood what you've heard, and that learning to pause, learning to process instead of react as like a deflection, a get it away, no, this is dangerous, actually helps retrain the body out of that trauma response. That's one of the things I found very, very helpful as I get into listening mode and I don't have, some of those PTSD things that I otherwise would have. I found that very, very helpful when I was in trauma therapy. And part of the reason I can do Wellness Wednesday is instead of going, well, that's bullshit, it's like, well, what is the person trying to tell me here? Right? What is the purpose of this exercise? Why are they telling me to write stuff down? Why are they telling me to practice these 5 steps? Why are they giving me this? What's the why? What are they trying to communicate here? That is the core of active listening. Make sure you understand the other person as best as you can before you open your mouth to respond or you start typing to respond. None of us is perfect at this. Everyone can get better, okay? That's rule number 1. Never stop learning when it comes to listening. Also, there's a big difference between thinking you understand and checking to see if you understand. And this feels counterintuitive. This feels weird. This feels awkward at first. But this little trick, one weird trick I'm going to give you, is actually a really useful tool if you struggle to know what to say in social situations, because you don't have to come up with anything. All you have to do is say, when someone tells you something, you say, okay, if I understand you correctly, you're saying this, and try to summarize what they told you as accurately as possible. And then that gives them the opportunity to say kind of, or yes, or no, let me try this again. Ball's back in their court. You're off the hook for socialization. You have responded. You have responded in a pro-social way. Yay. Life hack, right? Try it. It's most people really appreciate the attempt to understand them. If they don't appreciate this, this is something of a red flag. Some people do. I'm learning more and more have this sort of induced form of narcissism where everything is supposed to be a script and people are supposed to somehow predict what they want or they're going to say what they're going to say, and everything has to be just so in this very scripted kind of reality TV version of life. People like that are people you probably want to minimize contact with because they're kind of made of drama. They're very made of drama. I was trying to be nice there. So the next thing with listening to understand, once you've got that sort of, here's what I understand you just said. Tell me if I'm wrong. People love, this is a little bit of a gendered reality that isn't fair, but it's true. Guys, you want to be charming, start off by being open to being wrong. It's the Canterbury Tales thing of what women really want is the ability to change their mind. Being wrong in the right way is charming. Like I said, it's gendered and not great and not right, but the emphasis here is positive social interactions, right? So I'm just throwing that out there. It works for women too. I do it, but I do find that is one of those things that you don't see in media a lot and in the real world. I've seen guys who are not terribly attractive, don't have a lot of money, don't have a great job, but they are great listeners and they are never short of company. Just saying. So the next thing is learning how to ask the right questions. The learning how to ask good questions to foster a conversation based on understanding. And this is something you should learn to do as an interviewer in media. A lot of the times nowadays, you don't learn how to do this because the questions are given to you by your editor. They are. And more, especially in gaming, they're just submit by email. So you never have that conversational back and forth ability to follow up. One of the things I used to love about interviewing game devs when you still could, before my access got cut for various reasons. Thanks, Activision. Thanks, Mean Girls at Ubisoft. But one of the things I used to love is that moment where I'd ask a question and you'd see the developer go and catch themselves. I'm like, okay, that question I asked, there's something they really, really want to talk about, but they're told they can't. So you can sort of get things backdoor. You can kind of get hints, but even that moment of, okay, there's something there they're really excited about. That was an authentic reaction. And even if they can't tell you about that, they will become more comfortable and more forthcoming because now they're excited about what they're talking about. They're passionate about what they're talking about. They're engaged with what they're talking about. And so they're less likely to think quite so much about what they say next. That's when you get good interviews, when people feel comfortable enough to not parse every word. The problem with the internet now is everybody is so worried about making a mistake that passion doesn't tend to come out. And that passion is additionally stifled with the whole, that's cringe. Because let's face it, Somebody being really excited about something or being goofy or being deliberately stupid or just doing something for fun tends to get labeled cringe. It's a conversation killer. It's a communication killer. Stop doing it. I can't stand it. And that's not a personal thing. It's you are cutting yourself off from meaningful communication because that's an indication that you're in judgment mode. And people don't want to speak freely with someone who is judging or who seems to be judging knee-jerk, right? You're probably all nodding right now. Of course, this is human nature, but a lot of people do not apply that to their communications. Instead of thinking about what they would want, they respond with how they've been treated. And that tends to be mimicry of very harsh judging statements. Now, this sounds like a separate topic, but we are actually still in the form of asking the right questions, because you can shut a conversation down before it starts by asking a question that seems to carry an inherent judgment. You don't want to put someone on their guard. You want to do what's called priming. Now, priming can be a tool for good. Priming can be a tool for evil. Priming is also called framing, but use this power only for good. It is used for evil far too much, especially in online communications, but also in person. This is not me giving you a weapon to use against people. This is me giving you a tool for you to collect information about your environment and the people around you. Because priming can persuade people that no matter what they're about to hear is terrible, no good, very bad. People do that to me on YouTube all the time. And Twitch. And it drives me crazy because I know it's effective and there's nothing I can do about it, because people are like, I watched the video. It's like, you didn't watch my video. You watched the video that somebody else made about me with clips of my video that were framed, primed, torqued, and in some cases sped up my dialogue, and so I sound like an insane chipmunk. But people think they're getting the whole story. They're not. It's been contextualized. But that power can also be used to put people at ease. Prime your question with the way you hope someone will respond. So preface it with something like, maybe you can help me with something. People like being helpful because that's not them providing unsolicited information, right? That's them being helpful. Helpful is good, right? And they're like, okay, I want to help. You'll probably see them sit forward a little bit, their eyes open a little bit more. They're more engaged, which means they're going to hear your question more clearly, because now you've got their attention. They're in listening mode, right? That's the okay Google or hey Siri of conversation. I don't have any voice prompts on any of my devices. So nothing just went nuts there. Might have gone nuts on your end, but apologies for that. But yeah, help me with something here. Or maybe you can help me with this, or you know about this stuff, right? You're a smart person on this. Hey, you know about this, right? Like, okay, this is a job for Superman, right? Like, I am needed. And then ask your question, like, provide some context. So instead of it just being, what are your views on abortion? Like, people are like, what? That's a huge question, right? Make it specific and the beginning of a conversation. So, the cliche, I have this friend and this is what's going on. Not so great. I had this conversation, or I had this exchange with this person the other day. Or I have this problem I need to solve. Or indicate to them what sort of information you are seeking here. Are you looking for a perspective? Are you looking for actual advice? Are you looking for analysis? Or are you looking for a step-by-step guide? Because then the person knows what kind of answer you're looking for, right? And some people just want a sounding board. Other people actually want, here's what you should do. And if you can let the person know that's what you're looking for at the beginning, you're going to get more useful information, right? So it's, maybe you can help me with this. I need some advice. Or maybe you can help me with this. I'm looking for another perspective, right? I need a gut check. I got a buddy who's always sanity check. That's his prompt for, he just wants my opinion on something. So, then ask your question. I'm trying to figure out, for me, when I should go see Spider-Man. When's the best time to go see Spider-Man in theaters so the theater's relatively empty? Because I'm still scared about COVID. We're at 100% capacity here. I really want to see Spider-Man in theaters, but fuck me, it's not worth getting sick. I don't care how spoiled it is. I think it's an unspoilable movie. I'll sit and watch adorable pictures from the premiere yesterday. I don't want to get COVID. Maybe that's the question. Maybe it's sort of more open. I'm struggling with this topic. I'm struggling with this social issue. I'm trying to figure out what I think about this video game. What do you think? Or what do you think I should do? So come up with the beginning, I'm looking for this. You're smart. I'm looking for this. And then at the end, close again with a statement that indicates you're done and is letting them know, okay, I'm in listening mode now, right? And then the listening begins. And yes, we're 20 minutes into this video and we've just actually got to the listening part. Now we've done some stuff, but asking the right questions is a big, big part of it. The first rule people will give you is make eye contact. And every autistic, person on the autism spectrum is like, no, you don't have to make eye contact. Sometimes you'll see me do this in interviews because not everyone is an eye contact person. Some people, the meaning of what they're saying actually opens up when you're not watching their body language and you're just listening to what they're saying. Other people are very visual talkers and that eye contact is important. But, you'll get a sense both how you listen best, but also what's the best way to understand this person. Sometimes it's better to tune out other stimuli and just listen to what the person is saying. Sometimes it's better to watch for, fidgety hands, right? That is a good way to tell if somebody is anxious. Or if you're somebody like me, I just have chronic pain in my hands, so I'll be fidgeting with my hands a lot just because they hurt. Doesn't mean what it means to somebody else, right? These are the things that are important. And if you notice something, you can ask, like, be careful with this because it makes people feel called out sometimes. So this is an advanced move, but you seem nervous and that empathy, you seem, instead of why are you nervous, is a less threatening way. And again, it's all about not putting people on their guard, right? So you get free communication, free as in free flowing. Again, judgmental responses are going to shut someone down. Not only does it exacerbate a lack of understanding, it also makes them less comfortable clarifying what they actually said to you. Because, we all know the conversations where we just feel like anything we say is just going to get twisted. So best quit while I'm ahead or behind, right? So, somebody makes a statement, you summarize, you empathize. Again, you seem this, or I'm getting the sense that you're upset or you're nervous or you're angry. Is that right? Don't tell the other person what they're feeling. Ask them what they're feeling, right? I like to offer that because I like to offer specifics because I find it's easier for people to respond when they're like, no, I'm not angry, I'm scared, or I'm not angry, I'm stressed, or, something. Now watch the angry one, because some people get really offended when you suggest that they're angry. Again, that's a bit of a red flag, because everybody gets angry sometimes. But, you seem upset, you seem nervous, you seem frustrated. No, I'm not this, I'm that. All right, you learned something, right? So you go through the process, you're like, here's what I understand. Let the person explain until this would understand. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right. Now you get the opportunity, finally, now that you understand what they're talking about, to respond. Now, responses are very, very important here, because this is the part where the other person decides whether they want to give you another round of their time. And if you come back with, here's why you're wrong, depending on the context of the discussion, that may be an inappropriate response. What do I mean by that? If the framing of the conversation is what gives you this impression, you're setting a trap if you go, here's why you're wrong. Because you didn't ask what someone's impression was. You asked them why they felt that way, right? There's no right or wrong answer to where someone got an answer from. If someone is making an affirmative declarative statement, you did this, on Sunday night at 3:00, then it's, no, I wasn't there. I was here. Look, that's a different thing. But I see a lot of people go, well, why do you feel that way? Because they know it's the right thing to do. And then they blow the follow-up by going, well, I disagree. You don't get to disagree on why someone felt the way they did. So really, really watch. And that's why it's important to choose your question with care, so your response is consistent with the question you asked. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. And there's another thing you can do to pause the conversation and make sure you haven't lost somebody in your response. Stop. Does that make sense? Give someone the opportunity to jump in. Ironically, they've done studies of language, and maybe why that gendered thing I said off the top is so they find that women do those confirming statements, statements that build agreement, much, much more frequently as a rule than men do. I'm not willing to speculate on why, just showing the difference in gendered communication styles. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's just something to watch and something to notice. Okay, is this someone who uses this style? All right, well, this is something they're probably more comfortable with people who use the same communication style, right? It also lets people know when it's their turn to talk, which is nice. But then getting into the response. Oh, that's really interesting. Or I hadn't considered that. Or, wow, that really made me think. This is what we call giving a gift and in active listening. And this is the point where people are like, what? A gift? That's where it's just, I prefer to call it as a gesture of appreciation that somebody bothered to talk to you, right? Then give a response, if you so choose, in a non-judgmental way. And that doesn't mean you're not allowed to have an opinion. Just state it as your opinion, not as the law of the land. Like, that's interesting. I never considered that. That really made me think, here's where I'm coming from on this, And if you want to hold up another, what do you think about that? Or, how do you see it differently? Or, And, if somebody else is a listener to understand, they'll be, wait a second. Okay, so if I understand you correctly, this is what you think. And then you have the chance to clarify, and so on and so forth. But you'll notice that everything is very non-confrontational. That's not what tends to happen on the internet. And confrontational communication styles are so widespread on the internet that people respond to non-confrontational communication styles as if they were confrontational because they're so primed to react to confrontation. And that's why I'm saying that if you actually stop and really pay attention, and reading does not make you a better listener. Listening does not make you a better reader either. So this could be something where you're really good at this when you're listening, you're not so great when you're reading a tweet, or vice versa. So you have to practice both. But this is something you can practice. Take something, read it again before you respond. That is the equivalent of, and you know what? If you're reading something and you're not sure, it is totally cool to go, hold on. Are you saying this or are you saying that? Somebody could say, I'm saying neither. I'm saying this. There you are. You're communicating to understand, not communicating to respond. And again, the reason you want to communicate to understand, listen to understand, not communicate or listen to respond, is you don't know what you're really responding to before you understand. And I guarantee you that if you take a little bit of extra time to really understand what someone is telling you, your social interactions will become better quality, they will be more positive, and you will feel less stress in conversations because you don't really have to supply much. You don't have to figure out what to say. You're just summarizing what the other person told you and asking them if that's right or wrong. It's all simple, right? Maybe not at first, but the more you practice it, the better it gets. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say, the responses to this. Let me know. We can do more. This is a complicated subject precisely because it requires certain neurotypical social cues that are not intuitive for people who are neurodivergent. So I'm willing to do more content on this. Feedback Friday, though, there's stuff from yesterday too. But again, if you like this content, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching and listening.